Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back to our show. Hi, we're joined again by John Goulait. Excited to have you here. I'm sorry, did you say something?
I can tell you that I'm right here with you.
Okay, perfect. I thought you were trying to tell me something when I was talking. I apologize. Looking back, back.net, and you mentioned you began looking back in 2019, right? After looking for his own family history, starting in 1996. Tell us about you and the company, whatever you want to share.
Well, as you know, and as people know now, if they're tuning in that this is all about genealogy. And today, actually, I'm going to talk about how you can start your own genealogy if you like, and go from there. Because some people want to do it. If you got an internet or a computer, you can do a lot. Otherwise, you have to do a lot of traveling. That's all. Because even on that, we have to travel, for certain things. But that's basically what I'd like to talk about today a little bit. And I'm with Looking Back, which is the name of our organization. And we can be contacted at my name, Goulait, at Looking Back, LOCKINGBACK.net. And also, if you'd like to get us by, you can go to our webpage at www.lookingback.net, and you can fill out an inquiry or a note to us, and we'll get back to you that way also.
Great.
Otherwise than that, the best bet you can do right now is go along with what's going on and listen to us and do what you need to do. And when you need us, we're here to help you.
Great. And give me some examples of the work that you're doing that you can actually help someone with.
Well, a lot of it's got to do with what a person wants to do. Like I said, I'd like to teach them how to do it themselves. And, but I can't be sure, teach them to do it if they want to do it. If they don't, then that's why we are here to help them do it. Because some people will not be able to do it once they get into it. It can get pretty hard. But if you follow the rules, you might be able to get pretty far with it. But anyway, that's the basic thing. They like to. A lot of people want to try it. Those that don't want to try don't want to try it because they don't know how to do it, or they just don't want to do it. And there's people out there that just don't want to do it, but they want to know about their family. We're going to do it for them.
Yeah.
It's the best way to say that. And the thing that they've got to remember if they want to do their own, the way we put it, and they put it is, it's a tree. And if you're starting it, you're that twig on that branch. That is a branch of that whole tree. So,
and just want to remind everyone, it's lookingback.net is your website. And again, if you're out there listening, interested in your family history, well, guess what? As professionals, their knowledge is beyond amazing. And I know areas of expertise, we talked about French Canadian. You mentioned from France, in around the Great Lakes. You also have access to records in Northern Neck, Middle Peninsula, Virginia, access to the Library of Congress, National Archives. My goodness. So again, Looking Back here was formed to help those looking for your family history. And you may be at that point where you started this, but you kind of got blocked by that brick wall. Well, that's why our experts are here today. Jean Goulait joining us. And again, he's from Virginia, but he works with people worldwide. And his wife as well, which, by the way, we miss. Send her our best.
Good. She, I think, is getting a little better now, thank goodness. So that we keep hoping she gets better quicker. But she is doing better today than she has in a long time. So that's good. Anyway, getting back to what I was talking about with people that want to do their own, the first thing you can do is look for names, date, places, and relationships. And that begins in at home. That's with you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're at home, you can, what you can think of your relatives and everything else, then the relatives use them as sources because
Mm-hmm.
they can tell you. Some will have sources of the family and other people in it and their own sources. If they're cousins, uh, uncles and aunts, and grandparents. And if you have grandparents, it's handy.
Mm-hmm.
But you can go from that. You can find a lot out just by doing that and start your research with that. And there's a lot of things and places you can do without even going into like Ancestry or that, which is a good place if you want to join. But that can get expensive in the beginning. Uh, uh, so, that's up to you. But you're going to be looking for, as I said, names, dates, and relationships. Your relatives can help you with that. You can also go to your state and county records, county, local, state, and then the federal records, and do very good with that. Otherwise, you have a lot of other places you can go with birth, marriage, and death records. You got wills and probates,
Mm-hmm.
court records, birth certificates, military records, and you can go on and start going from there and piecing all that together, and you can get a lot of history.
Wow.
And that's what you need to work with.
No, well, sometimes you don't have much to work with. I mean, what do you do in a situation like that? If there's really, has there ever been a case where you've been totally stinted, jilted? I mean, it's got to happen, right? Because there's
There
not
are
records
people
for
out there,
everyone.
right? There are people out there that don't think there's records for everyone, or they can't find records. But for most people, they can be available. There are certain times they're not. Again, if a person has been adopted, that kind of faces a little different entry point. But there's still points to look at with that without starting right away
Mm-hmm.
going to DNA. But after that, if you can get some inkling, sometimes you can find records even of depending upon the state
True.
of adoption. Other places you can. That's one of those you can or you can't things. But then you're left with probably going to have them do a DNA test before we can do too much. But we don't want to talk about that until we get into it a little deeper. It takes a lot to think of because the only thing that I will say is if you're going to take a DNA test, take an autosomal, that'll help
Yeah.
you. And that's where we're at with it on that, which is at that door.
Yeah.
As I say, there's a lot of records out there that you can find. The other thing that you can do is newspapers. Newspapers from every city, little town, and borough, if they have them, are pretty well available online. And some of them go back to even the 1800s in the United States. So you can, if you're willing to do a little searching on the internet, you might find some interesting things. I, in fact, found one a long time ago in the New York Times about my grandfather getting hit in the head by a brick in St. Clair, Michigan.
Wow.
That's just the way that the old ones worked, and it was, you can find some interesting stuff on people if you know where they were at the time, at the time. So that makes a good searching part to go with,
Yeah.
and we look at that, and I like to say with genealogy and that. Uh, Genealogy, there's two, and one's genealogy and the other is heritage. And genealogy is just that, finding family, names, relationships. If you want to get down to the true points of it, and your heritage comes out when you start getting all the other things. I think I mentioned earlier about there's records out there on, well, for Confucius is one of them, but in China, they have records that go back 2,500 years
Mm-hmm.
to their
Wow.
relatives. And there's some African tribes that also have their records. Probably most of it is mouth to mouth, the stories records, but there are there that go back many generations. That's 80 generations approximately.
Yeah.
The one thing when you do your start with it, I recommend not to go beyond 4 generations. Once you get through that, maybe you'll be a little bit more pro at it. But at 4 generations, you're looking at, I think
Yeah.
it's 64 people,
Yeah. Wow.
including your generation is number one, and then going back, number one actually goes to, I think it's 32, but it hops to 64 right in there too. And that's a good point to not go too much further. You're not going to go in. Anybody that I know of has never been able to go in and go 10 generations the first time around. It
Hmm.
takes more than a few days to do that. I mean, I've got mine going back to right now 8 generations on the family, and I've got some links that I need to check out because one of my, I think it's the fifth great grandmother uh, going down goes down to King John the First. So that's a long way back, but I haven't been able to get the records checked yet because I'm not going to say that I'm there, but I got a pretty good idea that it looked like it was good, but you got to make sure. That's the one thing I always tell everybody when they're doing it. Make sure you have at least 3 good records.
Yeah.
And often what happens, and I have to live with this because in uh, the records out of Canada, especially for the Catholic Church, you can get the baptisms, but you can't always find out what day they were born. And in some cases, they were born 2, 3 months before they were baptized because there was a traveling priest. So you had all that to think about with it too. So it takes a little bit of work,
Yeah, it
but
sure does.
it's fun and games. And it is fun. I mean, there's people just like I was into doing it for myself and a few other people. You find out that you need to, go beyond and learn to get beyond certain points. And it can be a challenge, but when it gets that far, you're doing it every day and you just do it because you love it.
Yeah. Wow.
And the other thing that I would like to recommend people out there to do uh, while they're doing and trying to get their family and that put together is to start, if they're on Facebook, to start a family page on Facebook.
Hmm.
Take what they've got, what information themselves and their parents or that, put on some pictures and just write every relative you've got and just get it open up and people might see it and go to it. And that might give you some help too, because the big thing is getting the news from your family, the stories that they can give, because the stories may be stories, but they may also be true. And you never know. That's why you got to research and make sure that you're getting the best dates and research that you can on each and every member and who they were married to,
Yeah.
who their kids were, who their relatives were. It can go into, I think right now on mine, I've got about 2,200 people. I know
Wow.
one person that's working on another branch of the same tree, and they've got, I think, 9,000 now, but I haven't gone out all the way on mine, out on my branch, because that's where I want to work primarily is on the branch yet. So I'm creating more people every day I go looking.
My goodness. Remind us, John, how we can reach you. Tell us the website, phone number, any other form of contact for our listeners before we continue, please.
All righty, I'll do that. First of all, you can contact me personally at jgoulet, Goulait, at lookingback.net. You can contact my lovely wife, Catherine Goulait, at kgoulet at lookingback.net. You also can go to the page itself. The web page is www.lookingback.net. And on that page, you'll find some information. And you can leave us a note of what you would like to do, or you can call us and we'll answer phone, providing we're not doing something else at the time.
If not, you'll get back to them, I'm sure. Awesome. Awesome. Amazing. John, tell me about your earlier life and career before this. before you got into this,
Oh,
tell me about you as a person. As it's good to know that. I think someone who's hiring you wants to know a little bit about you too. We're doing our
well, I've
genealogy on John.
okay, well, I've led a quite a different life than I probably should have, but it's been one I've enjoyed. So, as long as you're happy, it helps. But I graduated from college back in the late 60s with my bachelor's degree, and I went to work. Uh, and I taught school for a few years. And then I ended up working in the steel mills for a few years, uh, which was an experience in itself. But I liked working with my hands and I liked doing mechanical things. So it was enjoyable. I got am a, or was a Class A millwright, which is up the road a good bit. I left them in '78 and went to work for the Pennsylvania Air National Guard and the U.S. Air Force. And I worked with the Air Guard until 2004. Uh, again, at that time, I was working on aircraft maintenance, both physically and then inside doing, telling people what to do as
Wow.
a controller. I retired out of the Air Force as a senior master sergeant and went on. I was working for the last actually 10 years from 2000 to 2010 with the organization called ACT, Association of Civilian Technicians. Was
Okay.
at the time I was with it, one of the still is, I think, the third largest uh, standalone union or association, as they want to call it, in
Mm.
the Department of Defense. And I was their representative working on the Hill with doing as an advocate type program with the Senate and the House and all of their little people that I could get in touch with. And then in that time too, I was working on the genealogy, and as we went through before, I said I started in '96, but I didn't really get real serious till I could get working with DNA for my problems because I had one quick uh, brick wall with my second great grandfather. Uh, Before that, within 6 years of when I first did it, I finally got a match on the Goulait line with the ET ending, Goulet. And with that match, I knew where I was going from there, and I still had to work at it. And it at that time, there wasn't what they called autosomal yet being used. Now the autosomal came out. I started finding matches, more matches, and could triangulate to find out that where I was and where my grandfather, we assume, was with the family because there was a disappearance of a name that he was born but never seen again. And it was the same year my grandfather was born. So we think we had a name change in there, and all of the autosomal triangulates to be about right on that. So that's what I've done today. And as I said, I've been growing it up from then and looking at other families and just going a little crazy. Once you start, you can't put it down. And
Aw.
I know that Kathy will admit to that wholeheartedly. I
Aw.
couldn't, because she's done better than I have done, really, in some sense of the word, because I also have a German side of the family, and I am stuck at I've got my first great grandfather, but again, I can't get beyond the first great grandfather to the second great grandfather, and I'm working on that. I thought I had a hit the other day. I got a note from a young lady that she had some Wenzels in her family, and from the area that we were in. But then I was looking at it because I took the names that she gave me. I couldn't make them work in mine, but I did find where we crossed in my Goulait line with
Mm-hmm.
actually the indigenous side. So it was kind of exciting to say the least. Uh,
Wow.
we got a long ways back.
Aw.
but Kathy has done all four on Facebook. She has all four of her grandparents and herself on different pages, and filling them in, and on her research ends, she's got friends now that she works with that have moved from would be Western Poland now, but before then it was part of the whole area of Ukraine and all of that area together that went under a different name every few years. It changed, but her family, according to one part, is Russian, not Russian, but Russian. It was of its own, and the other one was Ukrainian. And these people, now that she's in touch with, have people that moved from there and are now living in the United States. Some of them have moved. They are, a little older in our age group, but they've been moved and they've got good information. She's had information that she's found on her family that's, I think, rather fantastic, because we know that some of her relatives from the Poland side, which the town was Dobra, were taken by the Russians and sent to the gulags. And we're not sure. We think we had one fellow that might have been part of that, and we haven't been able to get too much on that. She also had another side of the family that a few of the people were picked up because they were the intelligence, the teachers, the professors, by the Germans, and a couple of them, in fact, were put in Auschwitz. Now, the Germans didn't usually kill them, or if they weren't Jewish. They were Jewish, yes, but if they weren't, her records show that at least her DNA shows no Jewish in it, nor does mine. So some people do, a lot of people do. So you just don't know. But it's just, you never know what to expect out of it. I mean, it's a new turn every time you turn a page. But it's fun. It's fun. And you have to become a hysterical historian, and keep history in mind, because it's not just your family. That's when we talk about the heritage and that. You get the records, but you find out what's happened to it. You know where you're from, but where are you from? Well, you keep going because you want to find out where you're from, because you never get to the end.
Yeah.
You can't. You may not.
Are you there? Looks like we lost your connection. You're frozen, unless I'm frozen to you too. But we're just about out of time, so this might be the perfect timing. John Goulait, thank you for being here. Always a pleasure. And if someone does want to reach out to you, let me give them the website quickly here. It's Looking Back, 804-445-9681. Lookingback.net. Reach out. Obviously, he's here willing to help. And thank you again, John. Sorry you froze, but we will talk soon, okay? And I hope your wife, Kathy, is feeling much better. Thanks again. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home.
that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.